Ladies and gentlemen, you thought I was lying when I said Persona 5 is back, didn't you? Well, it is back. Here's the second part in a row, as proof.
Hooray!
I thought you were lying and I'm a part of this commentary.
Anyway, we are staring at proof that Madarame is truly an artist and not a plagiarist at all. He's drawn a lovely painting of his own shack.
This was your plan from the start?
You only went scouting because you were bored.
I like
Well, it's a very nice painting of his house.
I like how, like, everything in this background here is a 2D painted image, except for the hand railing. It's rendered in finely crafted 3D right there. It's
Yeah, probably to put it in front of him.
yeah, it's just funny that they resorted to that, because most games with pre-rendered backgrounds that I've played actually manage to layer the 2D image so that the 3D object can pass between it, but oh, I guess I thought it was cheaper to just make a 3D railing.
Well, you have to make ratings for the game anyway, so...
Fair enough.
Is that gonna work?
I mean, that'd be my reasoning anyway.
I like how they decided to have this conversation right outside Madarame's house. It's like...
I can hear you youngsters out there.
I mean, they're literally discussing how to sneak
Secret
in
plans.
and unlock the door to his secret counterfeit painting room. It's
Yusuke, those 3 kids are standing outside of my house again.
That'll be a breeze. Just give me a hairpin and I'll handle it. It will take some time.
Well, technically, sir, it is a public street.
In front of Madarame would be impossible.
well, you know, Madarame's probably not in. As we're gonna find out later this part, Madarame actually has a second house, under a mistress's name, apparently. Wow. Do people have setups like that in the real world? Like, it's the second home under someone else's name?
What would you hide?
If you want to use it to hide stuff, yeah.
What? Fancy you say that, Ryuji.
Oh, there's lots to hide.
Like my counterfeit paintings.
We all have those.
It's simply the best excuse for you to enter
Well,
Madarame's house without raising
in any case, the rundown shack was really just a cover, but it turned out to be the rundown shack that happened to be the location for Madarame's palace, so it all worked out in the end for us, not so much for the bad guy.
technically only me.
Hey, as long as it conveniently falls into play for us, I'm fine with it.
Well, this is where he kept all of his pupils, so this is where most of the things he's done
You're not giving me much
have actually happened. Most of the crimes he's committed.
Do I have to be
But this is also the part where we start finding out more about Madarame's crimes. Unlike Kamoshida, where almost everything that he's done that's worth punishing and changing his heart for is revealed right off the bat, Madarame starts out with just the plagiarism, but you find out one more thing that he's done, and then one more thing, and then another thing. It's just something that rolls out gradually as you complete his dungeon.
Uncle?
choice? God!
You get the feeling if Phoenix Wright were in this game, he'd be seeing a lot of chains on Madarame.
You better
The whole screen is just nothing but chains.
And like 10 blocks.
Am I the only one in this group who doesn't know enough Phoenix Wright to get that joke?
We'll be counting on you more.
Yes.
Don't let Yusuke notice ya.
Uh,
If he tries to force my clothes off, I'll tear that house down. I'm really gonna lose it if we do all this in the palace.
yeah, I can understand On's stress at this moment. I mean, it's played for laughs, but it's kind of a tense situation. At least until you get to it and you realize that Yusuke's got like no spine. Like, he's utterly hopeless around girls. You thought he was completely oblivious, but no, he's just not. He's just so disconnected that it didn't occur to him until he was at that specific point that it was kind
Wait, I
of,
didn't think you'd actually agree.
well, he talks pretty callously about it up until he's in the room and it's about to happen. And then he's all like, no, I'm doing this for art. Like, it didn't occur to him before that scene played out that there was any sexual tension at all. But then, there it is. and he has no idea how to deal with it. It's kind of... It fits his character as portrayed in the rest of the game after this point, but it's actually the first point where it happens on screen that he has that obliviousness followed by nervousness. Like, Yusuke is the kind of person who walks cluelessly into so many awkward statements that you just can't ever assume that he's done something on purpose anymore. It's kind of magical when you see it.
Aha, the perfect foil.
The most the most prominent showing of this is actually Mementos, where he has a lot of clueless statements that he makes along the way, where he'll say something utterly straight-faced and have no idea that he just completely trampled over someone's social cue.
Now listen up.
Don't go near the busy places, you hear? I'm not at fault if you get involved in any shady business. Yeah, that's
busy places, huh?
That's how we deal with that's how we avoid getting in trouble. We just don't go anywhere busy. That's... Wow.
We're in the middle of Tokyo. Everywhere is busy.
Good point.
Anyway, occasionally there are these game shows that pop up on the television in the diner, and if you answer the question right the first time you attempt to answer it, you will get a knowledge boost. I say the first time you attempt to answer it. You can't answer the question and and do it wrong and then get the bonus. I'm sorry, is the video garbling for anyone else, or is that just
It's
my
fine
video
for me.
player that's screwing up?
I'm seeing it fine.
Huh.
It'll skip like maybe one frame, but that's about it.
Oh, odd.
Not a big deal.
I'm getting a little paranoid about this stuff, but my video players have been really giving me trouble lately. Like,
I think your
can't trust them.
technology's haunted.
Yeah, I
Yeah, I
can't.
know.
I can't trust them. Like, if I try to play my videos in VLC player, all of a sudden they garble every couple of seconds. It's like, what? Yeah, it is kind of like my technology is haunted. I'm not even gonna mince words about that. It's very, very bizarre.
Usually whenever I do a co-commentary, I always download the videos off of YouTube itself instead of actually streaming it off of the website, just because I don't want like the internet connections to garble my my voice in the Discord or anything else. And I don't know, I just find sometimes you'll be watching something and then the internet will just like stop. Like, even if my internet is absolutely fine, the video will just stop because for some reason it didn't want to load YouTube. I always have weird YouTube issues where it just chooses when it wants to stop and stuff, so...
Yeah, that can happen. You don't get that so much in New Jersey. Our population is high, so they keep the connection running pretty darn smooth most of the time. Unless it's like 3 a.m. and they decide to do maintenance.
And for us, they have to keep the internet going for the university students, because otherwise the entire campus will protest. Ooh.
Anyway, you can indeed get the top score and get a prize for doing so in this game as far as exams go. What I'm not so sure about is whether or not it's doable to get the top score in the first exam here without absolutely maxing out your knowledge. In previous games, there would be like a required level of knowledge that wasn't necessarily maximum, but was just barely obtainable within that space of the game, so that if you like really focused on studying, you could make that knowledge score in time for the test and get the top score. I'm not sure if you can do that here. I honestly am not.
I definitely compared it to my first playthrough from New Game Plus, and for sure, if you don't have a max intelligence, you don't get the top score. It says you're, like, really great, and you did a good job, and you aced it and stuff, but it's not, like, top score material.
But I got 100%. Well, they got 102%.
It's all the questions we weren't allowed to answer. Our damn protagonist didn't get them right. Come on.
Well, in any case, if you get the top score or a high enough score, I'm not really sure which, you can talk to Sojiro at the diner the same evening and get a special accessory called the Tough Belt from him, which raises your endurance stat by 5 points when you use it, which is pretty good for an accessory. I'm not going to be using it because the SP adhesives are my bread and butter, and they basically break the game. They're better than anything else you could get.
So did Anne bring her entire wardrobe for this scene, or did she buy extra clothes?
I don't know. It could swing either way. It looks like it could fill an entire dresser.
It was nothing.
My favorite part about this, though, is that if you pay attention to the physics of what she's wearing and what winds up on the floor, it's like she has a bunch of shirts that are literally exactly her size, but they stretch elastically to cover what she's wearing there. Which I'm pretty sure wouldn't work if we were obeying the laws of physics here. I'm pretty sure most of these clothes would rip. The buttons on that orange sweater down there would have popped out, and...
Nah, she's just trying to avoid check bag overweights.
Question. I never really downloaded the free DLC for Persona 5 yet to get all the, casual clothing or anything. Is Ann's overlayered outfit in that DLC?
No, sadly.
Damn it!
Someone has or will have it.
Someone mod that in.
A little more atmosphere would be lovely.
I just want to see her doing all the battle animations and whipping people in that outfit. It would be amazing.
So, there's a running joke with Ann that starts here and persists, I think, until the final dungeon. That joke is that she's terrible at acting. The punchline for the joke is not what you'd expect. Personas 3 and 4 did have similar running jokes that usually revolved around characters being bad at cooking. But they never actually do anything worthwhile with it. They kind of turn that on its head in this game, if I recall, by actually having Ann do something productive for the Phantom Thieves with her bad acting by the end. Semi-productive, I should say, because you still wind up having to fight an enemy, but she does put on an accent and pretend to be like a lady from Europe or something, because they have to talk to someone who is stuck up about that sort of thing. I don't really know how that would work in the native language, though.
I like the way Ann delivered that line. I'm gonna take it all off.
Yeah, her acting is terrible. It's something magical listening to a good actor act like a bad actor.
Yeah.
And that's why everyone wanted to go see The Disaster Artist. If a good actor plays a bad actor well, is that good acting or bad acting?
Oh, hi, Morgana.
Well, it's interesting, but at the same time you can kind of tell that it's a good actor playing a bad actor when it happens. Because there's just a little too much exaggeration at times. It's hard to express this in words, but, there's a certain natural kind of bad acting that you won't get if someone actually knows how to act. So it's like they're being super sarcastic rather than acting poorly,
Yeah, I get you.
So it actually does take quite a bit of skill to act like a bad actor. On purpose, anyway. Anyway, this sequence of events is like an hour long, and I had to record it 3 times because my computer can just, it can't seem to handle recording Persona 5. Persona 5 specifically, I'm not really sure why. Maybe there's something about the cel-shaded style or the number of colors on screen, but for some reason my Elgato just has a hell of a harder time capturing footage from it than it does from Resident Evil 7, which I'm recording as this very playthrough goes on, and I'm having no troubles with. I don't get it. I don't understand.
I haven't really had trouble with that when it comes to newer consoles like Xbox 360, PlayStation 4, but I always have that trouble with Elgato when it comes to PlayStation 2, because There are like these. There are certain games when you play them, they'll like change the aspect ratio to trigger this FMV cutscene or to trigger this loading screen or something. So what will happen is I'll finish a level, it'll go to the loading screen, but like it will just cut the visuals and just cut like the audio and everything's like off. And then when the recording comes back, it's just this big like flash of like black, and it bugs me. There are some games I wanted to record actually, but it would be such a pain recording it with the Elgato that like I can't do it, and it would be such a pain to edit around that.
Yeah, there are some moments in consoles that in older consoles specifically that will do that to the screen. They weren't exactly programmed with video capture in mind, obviously.
Yeah.
But
well, the most capture you would get is if you somehow hooked it up through like a VCR and then recorded directly to tape.
Which I've done.
Why not?
record your game through VHS and then record the VHS through your Elgato.
I did that with my Mega Man... not Elgato, but I did that with Mega Man 9. Because I wanted to record Mega Man 9, but I didn't have a capture device back in 2009. And I was using mostly emulators and the screen capture off of emulators to record stuff. That's how I was getting Mega Man 7, Mega Man 8. Like, all these NES, SNES, PlayStation games. But then I had to do Mega Man 9, but it's an Xbox 360 game, and I couldn't emulate that. And I was just like, how do I record this? So I set up my VHS tape, and I started recording it off of that, and then I went to my friend BJ's place, and he had a DVD recorder that he would use to like record all the VHS tapes that I gave him. So then he would send me a DVD of the VHS footage. And
wow.
if you watch Mega Man 9's playthrough today, it's got tracking. It looks really old school, which almost works for it because Mega Man 9 was a throwback Mega Man game. So it almost feels like it came from the 80s, but...
Tape over anything.
Did I tape over anything?
Yeah, did you tape over anything, or did you just use, like, a...
Parents' wedding tape. I guess I could use this.
Sorry, Mom, I need to do a Let's Play.
If I remember correctly, the early AVGN episodes were actually done with VHS footage as well, so... But you know, this is relevant to something, because it's kind of like copying a photo of an original painting.
Oh, nice segue.
Oh, making those connections.
Yeah, segue. Yeah, I've got the segue skills today. In any case, I like this whole sequence, even if it is a bit drawn out, because every character is doing something for the team. Morgana's picking a lock, Anna's acting,
quote unquote,
and Ryuji and Joker are going into the metaverse to make sure the door stays open once it's open. Fortunately, what this means is that
we're down 2 party members.
Down 2 party members, and we have to fight a sub-boss. Now, this isn't necessarily hard if you're doing a New Game Plus or playing on normal mode, but on hard mode, these sub-bosses can sort of hit like a truck. It's at this point in the game where you have to start being pretty darn careful on hard mode. I say this because I tried to play this originally like I would have on normal mode, or on a fresh new game, I should say. And I died. So I'm not going to quite be doing that, unfortunately. But yeah, it's just like it's kind of rough to end up dying in the middle of both a recording and a long cutscene sequence. Like, I know the game has a continue feature, but my pride wouldn't let me use it, so I actually restarted the recording at this point.
Oh. Wow.
You could just cut past it and no one would know the difference, but...
Maybe. It's hard to find a smooth edit point for these things, though. Since Persona 5 has all these fancy transitions for literally everything.
And that's when you edited your own fancy transitions.
Oh, sure, the Lucas Fade, the Adobe
Cross
Premiere
dissolve.
page peel.
I mean, it wouldn't be totally out of place.
Man, look at me being all fancy using the single target buffs. I never use those on a fresh new game. Like, I never do. Single target debuffs? Sure, because when you're using debuffs, there's usually only one enemy anyway. But if you're using buffs, you're probably using group buffs in this game, because they're like... because the single target buffs, they're not very SP efficient. They only last 3 turns, and they only target one character. So you can't buff up your entire party, but if you're not buffing up your entire party, you're only getting one party member's benefit from it. And if you're only getting one party member's benefit from it, it's not making that big of a difference to the battle. It's not
We
like...
distracted him with money.
Thanks for that, Ryuji. Fucking $12 down the drain. The other thing, though, is that buffs in the Persona series are not like buffs in, say, Nocturne. A single target buff in Nocturne stays in effect until you get debuffed, essentially. But it only boosts you up like a notch on that particular stat. So the way buffs work in that game is you want to cast a spell over and over on one target to raise the stat up and up and up until it won't go up anymore. It's kind of like Pokemon, actually.
Pokemon and Golden Sun are like that.
Yeah, so the buff will stay in effect until the end of the battle or until you get debuffed. And enemies will do this to themselves sometimes, too. But the same applies to debuffs. So, like, the first time I ever beat Matador, it was just me piling debuffs on him until he was actually manageable to take down. Ugh. Man. You don't know pain until you've played Nocturne Blind and fought Matador for the first time and realize that that's the point where you either have to get good or grind yourself to oblivion.
Isn't that the game where you can reach like level like 999?
I don't know.
I think one of the SMT games lets you get to like almost 1,000.
Maybe. I haven't heard that in Nocturne.
I know Tales of Symphonia did, and I tried to go to 999, but I gave up around 400.
Okay.
At that point, are you just... At that point, is it even worth anything? Because you're probably just one-shotting the final super boss or whatever anyway.
Yeah. You were... I did one-shot the final boss.
Man.
So I even let you get that high in the first place.
I don't know why Symphonia does that, but you can. You can grind and grind and grind and become so overpowered that it's, like, unnecessary. And there's like these demon weapons in Symphonia that, like, they're almost like Soul Edge because they have, like, eyes and stuff. And they're supposed to be cursed, but, like, the more you kill with them, the stronger they get, and eventually they just do ridiculous amounts of damage if you've been using them long enough. So,
man. JRPGs in the GameCube era and earlier had no eye for balance at all. They just wanted to be cool. So they gave you, like, super overpowered stuff to use and didn't bother making the game challenging once you got them.
Yup.
I'm almost done my Final Fantasy VIII video. I cover imbalance in that game quite well.
You mean how there is no balance in that game?
No.
I mean, the first time I played Final Fantasy VIII, it was fairly challenging, but that's because I didn't know how to use the system, and I was a stupid 7-year-old, and I spammed summons at things until, like, the end of the game. So, like, I got to the final dungeon, couldn't use my summons anymore, and it was, like, during the last 2 hours of the game that I actually had to figure out how most of the game systems worked because of that.
Why? The real Sayuri was stolen by one of my pupils long ago.
And I clearly remember being in my grandparents' house fighting Bahamut for the first time, and doing like 200 damage per hit, and my uncle was watching me play at some point, and he said, "That's all the damage you're doing?" It didn't occur to me until later that he knew what he was talking about. He played the game, and realized that I must have been really bad at using the junction system when I was when he saw that. Anyway, this is the part where Madarame's false modesty comes into play. And unlike An, he's actually pretty good at acting. Like, I'm pretty sure this is how a voice actor would deliver these lines if the lines were honest on the part of the character.
Sure.
And you know, you would almost be fooled by this if you hadn't seen his palace beforehand. It's kind of like with Kamoshida, where his outward persona is actually pretty agreeable. So if you hadn't seen if you hadn't seen the results of his distorted desires beforehand, you might be fooled into thinking he's a pretty good person until that was revealed.
Yeah. I like that they start you off with a guy who all these students already have bad things to say about him. There's clearly something shady going on. And then they move you to another guy who everybody has nothing but nice things to say about Madarame. Everyone's cheerful. Yusuke's defending him. Like, there's a little bit of, like, is he? Is he? But,
nah, he's evil.
So, you know, we go from Kamoshida, who's sort of semi-agreeable in real life, but everyone knows he's awful, to Madarame, who's really good at hiding it, to a goddamn mafia boss. Yeah, we sort of
to an outright evil asshole.
We gave up that we gave up that difficulty curve.
This painting kept me going. It's the reason I made it this far.
Anyway, yeah, this is the point in the game where I started to really hate Atlas for not letting me use the screenshot function, because it would have been really useful to take a screenshot of this room for a future puzzle in the dungeon, where you need to identify genuine Sayori paintings against a bunch of counterfeits that have little details that are off about them, like certain aspects of them that are colored the wrong color, or missing flowers on a tree branch, or a branch that isn't there.
Or this one, Sayori has a mustache.
Well, they don't get quite that blatant, and if they did get that blatant, it would be a lot easier. But the thing is that there's a room where you have to pick between several paintings, and if you pick the incorrect painting, a shadow will spawn and attack you. So you need to be able to identify which is the genuine Sayori. Now, I did take a screenshot of these, and I will be referring to that screenshot when I get to that room. But that's because I have footage on my computer that I could just hit the print screen button with. The actual game on the console doesn't let you use the share button at all, which is a measure to prevent people from tweeting plot points on Twitter, I guess, but
even still, some games handle that a lot better. Like, there are certain games where, like, yeah, there are blocked scenes in, say, Batman Arkham Knight, where they don't want to reveal who the Arkham Knight is. They don't want to reveal the ending of the game, let's say. But anything involving a side quest, like whether you're going after Man-Bats or going after the Penguin, you know, they're fine letting you take pictures, letting you stream that kind of footage. And I wish Atlas was just a little bit more... When it came to, like, the main plot, sure, but when it comes to everything else, the dungeon crawling, leave it alone.
Well, the scene that we're talking about probably would have been blocked anyway. But, yeah, they don't let you use share button at all. And it would have been damn useful to be able to see the Sayori. Because, you know, games with photo functions or screenshot functions, sometimes they'll have a puzzle that requires you to remember what something looks like.
Mario Odyssey specifically has a bunch of moons around that idea.
Yeah, so does Breath of the Wild. At least one or two puzzles require you to remember something. And it's a hell of a lot easier to just take out your magic, the Sheikah slate camera and snap a picture of the thing, rather than trying to remember in your head. Yeah.
Nice catch, Yusuke.
So apparently, when you warp into the metaverse, if you're at a higher elevation, you will just drop down to wherever you were. It's very convenient, though, that they happened to land exactly where Joker and Ryuji were, considering that the area of that shack can't possibly fill the entire museum.
Although that does bring in, like, the old Mega Man argument of why can't they just warp to the end then?
Well, they probably ended up here because she used the Metaverse app from right outside the magically locked door. So now, I like how Yusuke seems utterly calm about this development until he crouches down and starts having a nauseous reaction, which is a fairly realistic expectation when someone is having a heavy stress reaction. It gets to them so hard that they become physically ill. But Yusuke is pretty out there, dude, about all of this.
Yeah, I've seen worse whenever I light one up.
I guess you could say
It's rough being an artist, you know.
hearts are rotten crooks.
I do like that, like, his first reaction to all this gaudy flair is to think that it's repulsive. Like, that's his first impression of it. It does say something about his aesthetic sensibilities when he sees all of this overblown grandeur and thinks it's not just tacky, but repulsive. Like, it represents all of the things about an artist that he thinks artists shouldn't be, before he even really understands what it means about Madarame.
My emotions are overwhelming me.
Sorry, but we don't have time to dawdle. The security level's gone through the roof. We need to get out of here at once.
But we just got in here.
I just noticed, what is with those lightning bolt things that are, what are they, wind chimes?
What
Yeah.
lightning bolt things?
I don't get it. I just do not understand art.
Now this is art!
I call this bold and brash.
It's dignity! Don't you guys recognize dignity when you see it?
Anyway, yeah, there is a bit of a walking segment here. It's only a bit of a walking segment, though. They just wanted to have this scene where Yusuke notices the paintings, but Persona 5 doesn't like to keep things totally non-interactive for too long at a stretch, which is kind of a lost cause, because there are a lot of places where it's non-interactive for too long. But, yeah, it lets you walk around for a few seconds here, for some reason.
And to your left, you'll see the game Eve going on. Why are all the paintings so wavy? Can I jump into them and enter a level like Mario?
Du-du-du-du-du-du.
Wait to go.
Now, while it is an unorthodox portrayal of it, with the whole artist plagiarism thing being the hook, a lot of what's shown of Madarame's relationship with his pupils does reflect reality when it comes to general child abuse situations, including the whole situation where Yusuke is rationalizing things and trying to deny the worst of it while explaining away what he can't deny. So, it's pretty sobering when you hit that realization. It's just odd to see it all dressed up in this artist theme. Also, Madarame's Shogun outfit is something else.
I love gold!
It's gaudy as hell, yeah. It's it's funny because he's gone for the same kind of authority figure ego expression that Kamoshida did, but instead of it being utterly ridiculous and kind of gross like Kamoshida's, it just barely skirts the line between being classy and being really, really, really tacky.
Besides, a famous person living in that shack. I have another hope.
I think part of that might come down to cultural differences, though, because I don't know how an actual Japanese person would react to seeing him wearing this Shogun outfit with the weird lipstick thing going on. Like, how would that look at first blush? I'm not really sure. Like, I know what my own personal first thoughts are on the point of seeing someone dressed like a European king, but that's a pretty normal image in my own imagination. So,
I guess it just kind of depends on how the shogunate are viewed in terms of, you know, representation in that way.
I found the real painting, but it can't go public. You can have it for a special.
But yeah, this is where we find out that not only is Madarame plagiarizing, he's also making counterfeits of his own painting and selling them via scam messages to art collectors.
No.
He started the rumor that the painting was stolen in the first place.
This is a legitimate business transaction. Though I doubt a brat like you would ever come.
Well, Madarame's not entirely wrong. As long as people are willing to buy it, I guess it's technically okay.
On and on about money this, money that. No wonder this disgusting museum.
Well, I mean, you know,
Supposed to be an
I guess it's more legal than someone else counterfeiting his paintings and selling them. Like, if he were taken to court for this, would he actually be arrested? Well, probably.
If it's his own work, then technically no.
Probably for false advertising, maybe, but.
Yeah.
It's it's strange. It's a very odd scheme. Has anyone ever done something like this in real life? Like, is this based on something that happened in real life? Because I know some parts of Persona 5 are based on things that were in the Japanese news around the time. Like it's one of the cases where Atlas's customary notice at the start, where everything is fictional and likenesses to real life things are purely coincidence, where that's slightly bullshit. I say slightly bullshit because, like, they changed just enough so that it, or kept just enough non-specific that it's not really, you know, really referencing real life things so much as paralleling them.
I mean, I'm pretty sure counterfeit art cases are totally a thing in court, but
the thing is a counterfeit if it's your own work.
True.
Well, I don't think any defense attorney would ever argue that this wasn't a counterfeit job. Just, you know, what charge do you actually charge this with? It's a very strange situation, legally.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter who you are.
I like Yusuke's awakening sequence. He makes this entire flowery speech and goes really, like, super expressive with the way he's talking and gesturing as he awakens his persona, which kind of fits the whole artist thing. It's also an interesting transition, considering he was so emotionally hit by all of this that he was clutching his stomach and keeled over on the ground from the stress reaction.
I had clouded my vision for so long.
It's also interesting in the sense that he talks about how he was hiding from the truth of Madarame, from his true self, not his own true self, but his master's true self, which is kind of a it's a neat little inversion of the Persona 4 Shadow Persona relationship, where the shadow he was suppressing wasn't necessarily his own shadow, but his awareness of someone else's true self. I think it's the only time Persona 5 necessarily does this with the awakening sequence. It's about time we got
to this awakening scene.
Because after all, Yusuke's perfect.
Ow!
I still have to ask, whenever they, a movie or whatever does that, like, clawing thing, how hard do you have to be gripping something for your nails to bleed like that?
I don't want to find out.
Well, it's not his nails that are bleeding. If his nails were bleeding, they'd have been pulled back and off. It's the
Kabuki.
It's the friction of the ground against his fingertips, so it's sort of scratching the skin across, which is gross. Yeah, it's gross.
Goemon.
What, you don't like Kabuki, Karo?
It's Goemon!
Not to be confused with that blue-haired kid from the PlayStation 1 days.
I love the mystical ninja.
Well, to be fair, this is a perfect case of there are quests and then there are Japanese quests. Also, is it just me, or is Yusuke's jacket remind me of Disco Dick from Nightwing? I mean, it's open in the front a little bit. It has that huge collar. It's blue around the top. Looks exactly like Disco Dick's.
Like, I really love the super oversized Japanese smoke pipe too. Like, yeah. I'm pretty sure holding that way would strain your wrist, but it's still a thing that's happening. It's so big. Jesus.
On your knees, intruders. I learned much from you, Madarame. In order to see
now, I don't remember exactly what Shin Megami Tensei demon this guy is, but I do seem to recognize it from Nocturne. I think I might have fought it in that game. I should say, I didn't get too far in Nocturne when I played it last. I think I made it a little ways past the point where Dante appears. Which I think is after the point where you fight Thor or some other or some other demon of that nature. But I didn't make it too super far into the game.
Yeah. I'm not a big Shin Megami Tensei expert. I'm not even sure if there are new like monsters in Persona 5 at all. Like, are these all carryovers from older games? Or are there some new ones that we've never seen before?
Well,
I have no idea.
As per usual, the bosses are entirely unique, but all of the demons, I'm pretty sure, are existing designs. There are a lot of existing designs, though, and some of them have different iterations from different eras of the series. Like, one of the standout examples is that in the original Persona 3, Loki was this naked, blue-skinned guy in a loincloth. But in Persona 4, they changed to a more recent design, which has more of an edgy, cool look to it. And they retroactively added that design to Persona 3 Portable, so you're not getting loincloth Loki anymore.
Yeah. Because, like, I'm not a big Shin Megami Tensei expert. I've only really played the Persona games. And with Persona, for sure, going from, like, 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, you see some familiar guys that you've seen over and over again. But I always feel like I'm discovering something new every time I play a game. But I'm not sure if they've been in previous games before or not, so, you know.
Well, Shin Megami Tensei has a massive demon library. They basically don't need to bother making new concepts anymore. They could just continue using the same ones, and occasionally amping one up when they need to for a particular game, like the way they redesigned the angels for some reason in Shin Megami Tensei 4 to be all weird and techno-ish. I don't really know what they were doing with that, but eh.
Yeah. And keep in mind, chat, people in the comments section, I'm talking specifically about the random monsters that you usually fight in battles. I know about, you know, like the main characters' personas are obviously new.
Yeah.
Yeah, frickin' Tengus.
It's especially obvious though, because like in previous games, I don't think it's true of this game, but like in Persona 3, you had a particular persona for what's Yosuke's ascended persona, his transformed persona, his super special persona.
I feel like I know the name on the tip of my tongue.
Susanoo.
That's it.
Yeah, there's one for that in Persona 3, which is a basic Shin Megami Tensei design of that particular god. But then you get to Persona 4, and he's got this weird persona design with this ring of metal spinning around him like a sun. And then you get to Persona 4 Golden, and he's got the frickin' sun for an afro. It's very, very bizarre. But a lot of the Persona designs, with the notable exceptions of Personas 1 and 3, Persona's designs tends to be focused on being really weird costumes that have symbolic meaning to their summoners. To really emphasize the mask aspect, it's all about the costumes in Personas 2, 4, and 5. In Persona 3, they had this thing where the core of every persona was this dark, shadowy humanoid thing. With the odd exception of the female protagonist from Persona 3 Portable, who had a completely white core in the middle of their persona. I think the shadowy core was supposed to be symbolic of the character's hang-ups with mortality, so the female protagonist not having that dark core actually symbolized her being a more positive character than the male one. I don't know if that was intentional or not, though. It certainly works if so, but interesting thing to note there.
We're kind of such a dick to Ryuji. I guess you are good for something, Skull.
Shut up, cat. At least I have fingers. And time to just wail on him because he's almost dead.
I think Morgana deserves some praise for being able to successfully lockpick something with cat paws.
True.
I mean, he'd make a perfect Khajiit in the Elder Scrolls series. Yeah, I'm probably the only one who knows enough about it.
And we finished him off with an Acme anvil.
That's all, folks.
Hooray, level up.
I keep trying to find times to augment my HP and SP increase by going to the gym, but even on New Game Plus, I really just want to use those days to social link, so I probably won't go to the gym until later on in the playthrough, if at all. I do want to go to the gym
pump
at least a
you
few
up.
times, though.
It would have been neat if, like, the game was like Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where, like, you go to the gym and then all of a sudden the main character's all muscular now.
Don't even.
If only it were that easy.
Don't even get me started on Fable 2's way of handling that, because, like, as you increase your strength, skill, and magic, your appearance changes to reflect your increase in power in that particular discipline.
Yeah.
It's very strange, though. In Magic, you start to glow like fucking Azul the Cerulean from Dirge of Cerberus. when you increase your skill, you get super tall. And when you increase your strength, you get really muscular. And this is regardless of gender. You look like the frickin' Incredible Hulk, whether you're a man or a woman.
Yeah.
And the only one that you can undo with some external means to keep your appearance the way you want is the height one. So I only ever increase my skill past a certain point. When it comes to Magic, I usually stop after a few levels and just keep the abilities that I use the most.
Or you could just start off, you know, when you're doing like a character creation, just start yourself as like a midget or something. So that way, when your skill goes up and you get really tall, you're just normal size.
You don't have that option in Fable 2. You always have the same character model. The only appearance change comes from leveling up your skill, power, and your skill, strength, and magic. So
that kind of sucks.
Yeah, what I wind up doing is picking one or two spells that I use often and leveling just those up, and then picking one or two strength abilities that I use often, leveling just those up, and then going all in on skill upgrades, and then taking shortness potions to keep myself from being twice as tall as everyone around me. Yeah, it gets that ridiculous.
Yeah, in Fable 1, if you max out everything, you're literally double the size of every person you're walking around.
You are a glowing Hulk.
And yet, let me guess, roaming bandits still think they can take you.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
This guy literally shouted at a dragon and killed it. We can take him.
I don't remember if 2 and 3 did this, but I know 1, like, the more leveled up you got, the older you would get as well, so you would get, like, gray hair.
I think the aging thing actually comes from the number of times you die in that game. I'm not really sure, though.
I've done a few playthroughs where I never really died all that much. I felt like it was always just, the more you level up, the older your character would get.
Oh, and, I think what happens when you die is facial scarring. Never mind.
Yeah, that happens.
I've only played Fable 1 once. It's not a very replayable game. It's good, but not very replayable. It's very one-off compared to the other two.
Have you heard the rumors?
I do like this moment where we all just sit down on the couch to allow Yusuke a chance to collect himself. It's a very nice, calm moment. Although it's interrupted by shadows appearing out of nowhere. Why they waited until exactly this moment to catch us, I don't know. Because we're literally right outside the room where we fought Shadow Madarame's guards. I don't know. I guess they needed to go to the weapons lockers and get their gear. Their giant-ass flashlights and stun batons. I also like that Yusuke didn't notice that his clothes had changed until the very end.
Why am I dressed like a 70s comic book character?
Like, how disconnected from the world do you have to be not to notice a giant-ass kitsune mask that magically appears on your face?
And why am I wearing one of those cosplay tail things?
Someone was playing pin the tail to the donkey really poorly because it's off-center, damn it.
Are you saying I'm an ass?
Well, it's an accurate statement.
Let me join.
Oh, damn.
Member of the Phantom Thieves.
Now, I really do like this little detail about the four of them here. They all have different drinks, like, but the only drinks that are the same drink are An and Yusuke. Like, they have the same taste in drinks. Ryuji's got his soda.
His soda.
Gary Stu Protag here is all sophisticated with his little cup of coffee. And An and Yusuke have the same non-specified drink. I don't... Yeah, like... Well, it looks too transparent to be milk to me. It looks like...
It's some drink.
Yeah, it's some kind of like maybe it's water or maybe it's something else. But I'm trying to.
It almost looks like a lighter soda.
Like I'm trying to think of what the developers were trying to say. Like, is Yusuke's taste in food and drink a little more atypical of your usual teenage boy, or what? I don't know. Like,
well,
I know
he is atypical of most guys anyway. So,
like, I know An has a major sweet tooth. That's a thing that comes up in her social link. But you know, it's something that I think of, because when I think of drinks that are typical manly man drinks, it's usually either beer, soda, or coffee.
Yes.
Tea only ever comes up in British jokes, at least over here. Like, I hardly ever see anyone drinking tea. Like, I see plenty of people who have tea in their house, but I never see anyone drinking it. It's odd. But yeah, I don't know. Am I overthinking this? I'm probably overthinking this. It's Atlas. They do things with details like that, and they're usually doing something mildly clever when they do.
However, he's still furious about it, and said that he's going to take legal action against.
I find it's one of the things that blindsided me though when Yusuke reaches over for the cat, but instead pushes the button on the table to call the waiter or waitress, because I've never been to a diner that has a button for that.
It's a Japanese thing.
Yeah, apparently it is a Japanese thing. So it's one of those moments where the game's cultural difference actually did kind of ruin a moment for me.
Yeah, generally, I believe in Japanese restaurants, you're not really checked in by the waiters much unless you call for them.
Looks like our plan must be accomplished.
they're on to something.
Also, that is a very finely detailed coffee menu there. Like, I'm pretty sure I can see a picture of a plate with a sandwich on it at the bottom. Or at least it looks like a plate with a sandwich on it from this distance. It might be sushi. It's hard to tell.
The people in the next booth are, why are they talking to a cat?
Do you wish to draw me? You better bring out the best in that case.
I'm pretty sure that's not hygienic.
Hey, don't do like
I was thinking of ordering some black bean jelly.
I bet he got that idea from a black cat.
What is black bean jelly?
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like a dessert. It's actually pretty good.
Oh.
Sometimes it's in like bread.
Actually, now that I think about it, that kind of like, if does Yusuke have a sweet tooth too? Yeah, interesting. I didn't hang out with Yusuke all that often in my first playthrough. I think he's one of the ones that I didn't finish the confidant ranks for. So
Neither did I.
Well, the thing that sucks about him is he's always hanging out in like the subway station, and I know I found out later to look out at the map to see which locations people were in, and I was just wandering around the school. I was wandering around the area where, you know, I go get my weapons. I was never finding the guy. I didn't know where he was.
Yusuke's just like around. He's not really doing anything.
Yeah.
Well, he also does the skill card duplication for you, so I actually did find out where he was early on. It's just that, you know, I didn't hang out with him much. I always had him duplicating skill cards for me.
So technically, about the legal action they're talking about, technically main character and pal here were not even there at the time, so it was just Takamaki.
Yeah, but they have reasonable reason to expect that the three of them were working together. So
Well, you can't prove anything, so whatever.
it doesn't matter if they can prove anything. Ryuji's on thin ice with the school enough as it is, and I'm on probation. I, as in the character, not real like me. I'm not on probation. Don't look at me like
We're a
that.
troublemaker. Of course we did it.
You see, the thing about the probation situation is that you don't actually have to be charged with anything legitimate for it to screw with you. If Frizzy Hair gets implicated in anything, so much as implicated in anything, he's in deep shit. So he doesn't need to be convicted. He just needs to be accused.
Yeah, we got our tough belt.
Yep.
Wahoo.
A belt for men who have the eye of the tiger.
And enjoy the thrill of the fight.
I like how this accessory has the flavor text, courtesy of Sodero, that it's some out-of-fashion cool guy thing from the old days that he found at a discount shop.
But ain't it dandy?
He's like that old uncle who gives you extremely out-of-touch gifts. But in this case, it's like, little do you know, I can take any random clothing object and derive magical benefits from it. So this is actually a really good gift.
It's time for Space Dandy. He's a dandy guy in space.
Anyway, we will see you all next part when we dive back into the dungeon. But not before spending a bit of time socializing, because, well, that's our thing. We're Persona guys. We're Persona. We need to do personal.
We're Chatty
things.
Cathys.
Yeah. Social links. Go.